How many dog food sandwiches would you eat before you were completely broken on the inside, physically and mentally? Welcome back, everyone. J-Bone here, and alongside me tonight, the one, the only, Mr. CM Styles. How are you doing tonight?
I'm not hungry anymore.
It's like usually you want to eat a snack while watching The Walking Dead, and it's like, oh, it's the Negan hour. No, I'll pass. Thank you very much. We're going to be reviewing The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 3, The Cell. Very appropriately titled, seeing as a majority of it, well, I shouldn't say majority, but a good chunk of it was shown on the inside of Daryl's cell that he was done. He was in, like, what do they call that? Solitary confinement?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
As soon as I saw the teaser to this, and they showed a naked Daryl on TV, and I'm thinking to myself, the fangirls are going to go nuts, and then they're going to go ape shit at the same time because they're like, "How can you do this to Daryl?" And I'm like, and then I think of the guy demographic, like how many dudes really wanted to see a naked Daryl? You know, I don't know. This episode was dark, but it was good.
Oh yeah, this was another really difficult episode to watch. From just knowing that it was going to be involving Negan, because that episode 1 was not easy to get through. The last one was nice, had some upbeat moments with the introduction of King Ezekiel and the kingdom, but now we get inside the what's it called, the sanctuary?
Sanctuary, yes.
And I want to thank the band Collapsible Hearts Club and the song Easy Street for driving pretty much your entire audience of The Walking Dead mad. And I mean loony mad during this episode. Oh my God. Dude, this was so... this episode started out so bizarre.
Yeah, the opening, it showed Dwight, hustling, as Negan would call it. He's a 5-finger discount kind of guy. Everyone else gets little scraps of this and that, and he ends up getting almost everything, like in whole. And of course, you see Daryl in the cell where he gets dog meat sandwiches while Dwight gets a ham, egg, and cheese on lettuce and rye. And I'm like, it must be good to live like a king.
Well, and you gotta wonder, is Dwight doing this and getting away with it, or is he allowed to do this? That's how I was kind of looking at it, like, because he was doing it so sly. Like, all right, I'm gonna take this I'm gonna take this loaf of bread, but then he'd tuck it away. Like he was sneaking it. It's like, if he was allowed to do it, he would just take it, look at the guy, and be like, "What?" and then take off. But he was taking it, like looking around, like taking it, shoving it in his
little pouch or whatever.
Yeah, what do you call that? It's a guy's version of a purse, but it's got a cooler name to it, so it's not a purse. The man purse. What is that?
Yeah, I only knew it as man purse, but
it's like Indiana Jones had one back in the 80s, which made it like just cool, but that's it's not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not the 80s anymore, and it's the apocalypse, and you still wouldn't catch me with one of those around my waist.
Oh, come on, dude. They're all the fashion, man. Come on.
Yeah, maybe if it's the end of the world. But yeah, like you said, he was, and as I said as well, the whole 5-finger discount, he was taking everything. And, just like he said to, Negan said to Dwight, you take what you keep, or you keep what you take, everything's Negan's, but if you work for him, you get the goods. But make sure that you're single if you're going to work for Negan, because if you're married and you work for him, he's going to take your wife.
Yeah, this episode was hard on a lot of levels to watch because it showed the complete like breaking down. Well, I shouldn't say complete, but you see what I'm saying. The breakdown of Daryl for one.
Yes.
It also showed the relationship. How Dwight's relationship with Negan. We also see what's his wife's name, Sherry.
Sherry, yeah.
Or Dwight's ex, Sherry, now Negan's wife, Sherry, because she's hot. We see all these different revolving relationships in the episode, and it's all going on like inside the sanctuary, and it's really interesting to see how Negan, we saw how Rick's group finally, over the course of an episode, was broken down by Negan. But we also see everyone's relationship with Negan inside the sanctuary, how they all revere him as like this god. Like even like more respect, and also out of fear and loathing, I think, by some, than like someone like the governor,
Yeah. But you gotta remember, like Negan said in episode 1, one of the things he said that kind of made sense, and he referred to the past. I don't know what kind of lying assholes that you've been dealing with, but he's a man of his word. When he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And this guy is a direct threat to Rick's group, and he has himself a nice big army full of saviors, and it's like, you would think that name would be comforting, but when you're in a world like this, and you're like, you got a guy wheeling around a barbed wire bat, controlling everyone else's life, you think to yourself, are you going to be scared? Or are you going to be like Daryl and not break? And that was one of the biggest things to tonight's episode, is how far would Daryl go before he kneels to Negan?
Yeah, and he made it brutally obvious that he's never going to kneel, and he broke a little in this episode, but not as much as I think some thought he was going to. It was interesting to see how Dwight was Dwight was being an ass to him throughout the entire episode. And yet at one point he's trying to communicate to him like, look, if you just listen, and he's trying to explain to him that Negan's got a soft spot for him, and that you should be happy about that, and that you should want to take advantage of that. And Daryl's just like, oh, whatever, you can shove it. So finally, after that conversation, I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but whatever.
Oh, that's all good.
Dwight was like, well, if you're going to be a dick, then take this, and maybe this will make you think long and hard about it, about your situation. And he takes the Polaroid and tapes it on the wall right next to Daryl's head. And it's a picture of Glenn. Post-Glenn.
What was left of Glenn.
Yeah, after the beatdown, and what we saw when everybody was leaving that campsite or that area in the first episode, and we saw the guy in the background lean over Glenn, click the Polaroid, and then walk away out of camera view. This is that picture, and it's Man, so we get a little taste of that again, and so that was hard. And then Dwight turns on Roy Orbison's crying song, which that just, I mean, part of me was like on the inside, like chuckling, like, wow, what a corny song. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That broke Daryl to the point of tears. And he got like so sick. Then the next scene, we see Dwight open up the door, and there he's laying on the ground, and there's like a
puddle of his own puke. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh man.
I guess he was sick of the dog food too, because I know I was.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're hungry and you're desperate, and I'm sure there is some kind of like nutritional value in it, but it's not meant for humans. It's meant for dogs. And man, yeah, that was hard to watch. You know, I was joking with my wife, going back to like one of the first scenes where you see him like naked in the cell and going in the commercial break, and I was like, "Hey, babe, just saw Daryl dirty and naked eating a dog food sandwich. How hot was that?" And she just looks over at me like, and it's like no comment. It was like, oh. Sorry, babe. Guess I wasn't quite the turn on that Walking Dead female fans wanted.
Yeah, I know when the world turns into what it is on the show, when that day comes, I'm going to the nearest local grocery market. I'm going to grab all the alcohol I can, and I'm going to be feeding everybody dog food. Like, hey, if they could do it on TV, you can do it in real life.
Right? And the only other time we saw a bit of that was, I think it was the start of season.
It was 3.
Was it 3?
Carl was going to eat that dog food, and Rick threw the can.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I couldn't remember what season it was.
Season 3, episode 1.
Okay, I couldn't remember if that was 3 or 4, but yeah, you're right. Man. And another interesting bullet point about this episode is the relationship between Sherry and now her ex, Dwight, and also Sherry and Daryl. I want to talk about Sherry and Dwight for a little bit. What did you think about that particular scene where, well, if we first see them run into each other, which I'm sure they have a lot in the past, but in this episode, we see Dwight take Daryl in to see the doc, and Cheryl is there, and the pregnancy test is on the table, and the doc looks like he's giving her like a once-over exam. What did you think about all that?
Yeah, seeing that the fact that this is at least 4 to 6 months after the events of, Daryl and Dwight meeting each other along with Daryl or Dwight's now ex-wife, I thought that was a little, I wouldn't call it uncomfortable to watch, but it was really awkward because if people paid attention to how the comics run, who Dwight was and that he had this woman on his side, and that triggers Dwight because it's like, this guy has my woman and now he has to see her on a daily basis now, and we're going to see it on the show, and it's going to be very displeasing for him because that's a slap in the face. But this right here, it's kind of hard to put a perspective into it because this is just the first time that we're going to see this happen. I want to see it happen one more time, before Negan starts getting out of control. And we start seeing Dwight doing all the opposite of what he's going to do for Negan. But the confrontation between Sherry and Daryl, though, was great because Dwight really got worked up and he was telling her, don't talk to him. He's pretty much a prisoner here. So it's going to be weird to see Daryl and Dwight work some kind of relationship.
Yeah. And then Sherry's when she was talking to Daryl through the cell later, and then also when he tried to escape and she catches him and she tries to talk him into, hey, you don't want to do this, you're not going to make it, you need to go back.
Yep.
And Daryl's like, whatever, which is typical Daryl, you know.
Yeah.
You knew Daryl wasn't going to be like, oh, thanks for the heads up, I'll go back now. It's like, no, he's like, whatever. He's like, keep going. I'll risk it. And oh man, typical Daryl. Such a badass to. Well, I shouldn't say to the very end because I don't think we're gonna see the end of Daryl anytime soon. But
no, not after that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how long he gets treated like this, and then at the end, she does, like I said, she does confront him through the cell door later, and she apologizes. She's like, she ends up saying, "I'm sorry,"
Yeah.
you know, which is interesting. So I mean, she acts cold to Dwight, as in, all right, we just got to deal with this. You know, there's no more us. But how are you doing? Like
she'll sympathize for Daryl, but she won't for Dwight because he sacrificed his wife to stay alive.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. I mean, I think Dwight also figured if he acted up anymore, it was going to be the end of everyone he loved that was involved in his life, too.
Yeah.
So he was probably just praying that if he went along with Negan, it would spare him, spare Sherry, and hopefully he treated her okay, which I don't know. I'm a little I'm a little scared to see any behind the scenes behavior from Negan towards Sherry. I'm not looking forward to that. I'm just saying it's going to make a lot of viewers uncomfortable, I think, because we see the way he treats everyone else, but then, you know, someone who's his main squeeze or significant other, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. You know, there's one thing Negan loves besides Lucille, and that is having many, many wives. I'm thinking to myself, you know, it kind of reminds me of, let's say in the Middle East, you have the Prophet Muhammad who has several wives, or a Mormon over here in the States that has several wives. This is exactly what, you know, Negan's role is as a character, and we have to accept that. Now, he does have morals. One thing we learned in the comic book is that he is against rape. So he's not, you know, doing this just willingly. He's manipulating these women to get what he wants.
And
so
he keeps calling himself a stand-up guy, which is really interesting. I mean, he'll kill you without even thinking twice about it, but it's more like, you will respect me because if I warn you, you need to take my word for what it's worth. And yeah, keep going.
But yeah, you know, this is one thing people are going to have to know about Negan. You know, this is the apocalypse. He's not just going to be like, you know, I'm going to be a sociopath. He's still going to give a damn about certain people in his life. It's going to be in a twisted manner, but you're going to love how this character evolves over the next several seasons. Because let me tell you, we got to worry about this season here and possibly next season, which will be what I call All Out War season. All Out War A, which goes all eight episodes, and then All Out War B, which goes in the next 8 episodes. But who am I to say anything? It might happen season 9, and we don't even know. But this character is going to have so many bonds and soft spots for guys like Daryl now, who's pretty much going to be spared throughout the rest of the season after tonight. And then, of course, Rick, him and his relationship, which we're going to see next week on Sunday night's episode. So we're going to see twists and turns left and right, mind games being played on everybody, manipulation everywhere. And there's not a damn thing you can do. There's nothing you can do at all. So except sit there and watch it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's some of this stuff is going to be really hard to watch. I mean, if you thought the psychology of the first episode and this episode was hard, it ain't going to get any easier than this. It's not. I mean, we're going to have lighthearted moments with the kingdom and stuff with Ezekiel and, stuff outside of the sanctuary, stuff outside of Lucille's range, so to speak. But man, yeah, this is one bad dude, and I warned my wife, before we started watching this. I was like, just to give you a little heads up on this, I'm like, I know very little about Negan. I knew kind of what was going to happen around the first episode as far as him killing someone off. And that his storyline goes on for a significantly long time. At least I'm hoping it does, because from what I gather in the comics, it's a long story as far as like his reign of terror.
Yes.
And I'm like, this guy is gonna make the governor and Gareth, the guy from Terminus. Yeah. I'm like, it's gonna make them look like little kittens.
Exactly, and I had friends binge watch The Walking Dead within the last 2 weeks, and they came up telling me how the governor is a douchebag and how Gareth is a douchebag, and all of a sudden they're finally catching up to Negan, and they're like, I don't like this guy. I was like, that makes the other two, like you said, look like a bunch of little kittens.
Yeah.
I was like, all the stuff they did, they just did it to survive. This guy, he's just taking whatever he wants because he's freaking Negan, man. It's insane. And the way he manipulates his crew, like when Daryl tried escaping, what was the thing that he told every guy? He comes up, he says, who are you? And he points the bat at that person, and that person tells you exactly who he is. And it's like, oh, wow, he's got a cult. It's not just a group. This is a giant cult of Negans.
Yeah, and we finally get to, I mean, we got a taste of that last season when Rick took out that other group of Negan's guys from that other, it was like a side base or another one of his bases or whatever.
Yeah.
And, they were all saying, oh, like the last one he killed, the last one that was alive, he was like, I was Negan. Or I'm Negan, or whatever he said before he...
Yeah, he's like, I'm Negan, shithead.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And it was like, and, I'm sure they're like, oh, well, we took care of that, like, oh, that was easy. And no, now we're understanding,
why everyone says they're Negan.
Yeah, because of their relationship with him, the fear he casts, how he breaks everyone down and makes them respect him like I don't know, for lack of better words, a god,
Yeah, this guy's running a mini government of outlaws.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on? Um, oh, I do want to talk about a little bit about how he spares Daryl.
Yes.
And that is really unique. It's like you fear for Daryl throughout the whole episode. I mean, you're in the back of your head, you're like, okay, he's not going to kill him, but man, what else is he going to put Daryl through? And yeah, that was really hard to watch. He's like, how many dog food sandwiches is Daryl going to eat, and just be like, yeah, I'm eating it, but because I have to eat, but I'm not going to listen to you. And he shows Negan breaks down his relationship with Dwight while Dwight's standing there, which was very interesting. And then finally, after all that conversation, trying to get the psychology across to Daryl, asks him who he is, and I'm on the edge of my seat on my couch like, what's he going to say? And he says, I'm Daryl. And it's like, oh, God, no, now what is he going to do?
I'm thinking myself wrong answer. I was expecting Lucille to get the work again, but no. He likes Daryl for that attitude because he does not, as he said in the teaser, you don't scare easy. And Daryl is as fearless as they come. I mean, I know his backstory prior to what happened, where he came from. For those who want to understand that, I told you about this prior. On the PS3, Xbox 360, and PC, there's a game called Survival Instinct of the Walking Dead. And you can get that for like $2 now at GameStop. The game's not that great, but the backstory of it is pretty cool because you get to learn about Daryl, what made Daryl who he is, how he developed the love for a crossbow. Yeah, this guy is a hunter. And, when you're hunting, you got to have no fear because you don't know what's going to come across you. And on top of that, he's also, part of a biker gang. And, these guys have no fear whatsoever. And it's just like, this guy has been through hell and back since the apocalypse started, since losing his brother, since being held captive by the governor, and since the whole Terminus situation, and now all the way up to here. It's just like, you can't break this guy, but they did tonight with that song and that picture of Glenn. So him saying that he's still Daryl, there's hope for him. But the thing is, what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what road Daryl takes in all this, what Negan does with him, and also what Dwight does to just survive and deal with his situation with Negan and his ex. Oh, last thing I want to touch on before we wrap this up is the guy. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the guy. I didn't catch that. The guy that escaped, the guy that took off.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember his name either. He served a purpose when he was with Dwight, but yeah, he wasn't an important character at all.
Okay, so, but nonetheless, Negan was, telling him to either send to go find him or send someone after him, and it was interesting how Dwight was like, I got this. Like he's still trying to earn that respect or points or whatever, He's got that in the back of his head that he's still trying to keep his level of respect with Negan and not lose that. So the second something happens, he jumps on it. Like when he was going to kill Daryl at the campsite in episode 1, boom, he was on it. He was ready to prove himself. Like, yeah, you want me to do it, boss? You want me to do it? And Negan was like, just chill out, So when Dwight goes after this guy and has to go through a lot of dead bodies on the side of the road, and it took me a second to figure out what mess was that from? Was that from a prior episode? Was that from that explosion that happened in the confrontation between Daryl and that first group of Negan's guys? Is that what that was?
That was a completely different route. They were at an overpass, or Dwight was at an overpass. So basically, he just ran into a bunch of abandoned people that just apparently turned. Because remember, in what was that, season 6, episode? Was it right after? I don't know. It was episode 8 going into 9. That was the introduction to Negan and the Saviors. They were going in opposite direction. I think he was going east, and I think the other direction was going west.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever it was, Dwight was trying to get to this guy, and obviously his bike took a turn for the worse. And he was walking his bike. Then he finally caught up with, let's call him Joe Schmo, you know. And he captures him, and he's trying to take him back. He's got him by gunpoint. He's leading him, and this guy is finally like just emotionally broken. And he was like, "Look, you could just let me go. You don't have to." You know, as in, you can just go back and tell them you didn't find me, you know? But Dwight was thinking, no, you need to come with me, because if I don't, then the wrath is going to come down on me. He knows how much trouble he's going to be in if he doesn't do something about this.
Exactly.
So, and he's got that inner struggle too. And then finally just decides, as he's, you know, leading him away, even though this guy wants to die, he's on his knees begging Dwight to kill him, which was really hard to watch. And then he gets up, he's like, fine, you win, but you know there's no way. What do you say? There's no way out. He says something like that.
Yeah, you're not taking him back alive.
And so then I think Dwight does it out of almost like frustration, like he knows the other guy's right, so Dwight had to one-up him, and yet I think he also did it as like a mercy kill.
Yeah.
So I think it was a little bit of both. But yeah, he ends up shooting the guy, killing him with his back to him, which makes you hate Dwight even more. And then we see at the end of the episode what happened to him, and that he ended up in what did they call that area outside?
Oh, you're talking about right outside the sanctuary?
Yeah, where all the walkers were chained up.
I forget exactly what they call it.
I think
but it's a wall of walkers, and like, if you think you're going to go into this compound and do exactly like you did in Woodbury or Terminus or in any place safe, you know, you're absolutely wrong. Negan has, you know, he is a mind genius, you know, using the creation of putting walkers right outside of his gate. So if you get close, you know, you can go ahead and kill these guys, but guess what? Negan's men will be right behind that fence, popping around in you. So,
yeah, and it's also, I think it's a psychological thing on the inside too, because obviously, okay, this guy was killed, but he wasn't. Dwight shot him in the back, as in he killed him, but he didn't shoot him in the head. He brought him back to the sanctuary and put him in that fenced-in yard with the rest of the walkers. So basically, to me, that tells me is that fenced-in area is everyone that decided to try to run, escape, or do something stupid, and they're just there. They're rotting away, as in you're going to be here. That's your version of hell. You're stuck. You're still stuck with me. You're not going anywhere, and I'm keeping you alive even though you're dead. And I think that's the message he's sending to everyone around him. Like, just another point to drive home. Like, I'm the man, and if you don't like it, you're going to end up like them behind the fence.
Yeah, and you don't want to end up like that.
Yeah, I think he used a term during the episode at one point. He goes he called it on the spike. Isn't that what he said? Something like that. I think that's
something like that.
Yeah, and because at the beginning of the episode, Dwight's looking at the one with a spike through him, and he's like kneeling down and standing up and kneeling down and standing up, and he's like also stuck on his arm's stuck on another post, and this walker is just, I think it's meant to evoke emotion of sympathy for these walkers, because they're just stuck there. They're just dead. And Dwight's just sitting there looking at him like, wow, I really hope I don't end this. Yeah, like, that, and I really hope I don't end up in there. So, that's also motivation to keep his nose clean, so to speak. So yeah, this is another really hard, psychologically difficult episode to watch, because you really learn how horrible Negan is as a person, and how he's got this gift of mind control to just to break you. And man, anything else you want to add before we wrap this up, Styles?
I guess say for those who didn't watch this episode and are watching this podcast now, sorry for your luck. Do watch the recap here tonight. I'm sure they're going to run it a few times so you can catch up again. Do look forward to next week as we see Negan going over to Alexandria to gather his supplies from Rick and the crew. And this is going to be a 90-minute episode, so get ready for some action.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're getting almost an hour. I think it's
an hour and a half long.
Pretty much an hour and a half. I think I heard like 85 minutes. So that's just short of an hour and a half. Yeah, and that's going to be more Negan, but this time he's going to be knocking on the gates of
Little pig, let me in.
Oh my God. And just that little snippet of the preview, the look on Rick's face. Oh my God. Yeah, dude, this is going to be some hard shit to watch, man. It's going to be crazy.
This is going to be painful to watch, because this is right here. This is Rick at his worst. And, with Negan having full control of this season, they said it on a podcast that this is the Negan show now. So prepare to hate this guy for what he does. Me, I'm not going to hate the guy. I love this guy in the comic. I love his cynical sense of humor. If I had any place to be in the world and I had one character to become, although I want to be like Rick because I do have morals and I do anything to keep my group safe, look how many people are left in his group there. His original group is just about depleted, and all he's got is people that he collected along the way. And Negan still has all his men in one piece, except for ones that Daryl blew up with the RPG, and the ones that Carol and Maggie killed over at the Kill House, and then of course all the guys that Rick and the crew killed over at that satellite compound. But yeah, I would be. I hate to say it. I'd love to be Negan. People would be like, "Oh, this he's a sociopath too." So what? But that's what makes me, who I am. I got that same sense of humor he does. Doesn't mean I'm going to take Lucille to you, but goddamn, man, let me tell you, I have his mentality, and it fits me perfectly. There is no door number 4. This is the only way. So.
You're a survivor. So yeah.
Yes, I am by any means. But yes, look forward to next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one. We're going to see this evolution of Rick talking to everyone and letting them know who's running the show now. And yeah, can't wait to see it. It's going to be interesting. And from the looks of it, some are going to be a little easier to break than others. One being, Rick is broken. He's in. He is all into All Hail the Negan show. He's, he gets it. He is broken because of everything he went through in that first episode. Others who have a little more fight in them, apparently, are going to be ones like Michonne. Because she's like up on the wall with the rifle aimed right at Negan. And it's like...
Yep, that's straight from the comic. That is straight from the comic. Except it was not Michonne holding that rifle. It was Andrea, who is not with us anymore.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's interesting is, we've had a lot of similar characters, but some died earlier and later than others. So
yeah, so they're playing the role with other people, which makes it more interesting. We know the love-hate, well, not the love-hate relationship, but we know the love story with Team Michonne. And for those who don't know what that means, that's Rick and Michonne. But, yeah.
You shipped them together.
It's a Rictatorship. Well, now it's Negan's world, so...
It's the Negan ship.
But yeah, I'm good for tonight.
Yeah, incredible episode. Still just the start to a very insane, crazy season, which in some ways, it is taking a little focus off the walkers, which, is so critical in a series like this. Because like I said, years ago, if all you've got is people running around killing walkers, this would have been done after 2 seasons.
Exactly.
It's character development. It's storytelling. And that's why it's the biggest thing on TV still. So
yeah, if you want to watch a show or a movie based on killing zombies left and right within a couple hours, just watch Night of the Living Dead or 28 Weeks Later or something like that. Watch a George Romero film. They're great, but they have an ending. This show is going to be continuous, and that's how it plans on being. And until there's no more walkers, until there's no more humans, or at least until there's no more Rick, and they say, let's wake him up from his coma now, or something like that. Yeah. No, it's not a spoiler alert, but I'd like to see that happen just to piss off all the fans.
It'll be interesting because, obviously the writers of the comic book are, seasons ahead of this, and, you got to wonder... Kirkman's been doing the comic book for well over 10 years now.
Yeah, actually, 2003 is when I believe it came out. So, 13 years, almost 14. And I didn't know about the Walking Dead comics until about 2013 when I found out, and I grabbed a few and I got into it. And, I read... at the time, there was about 115 comics out, and I read all 115 within a matter of a few days. And I skimmed through a lot of stuff, but the stuff I did catch, Comic Book 100 with Negan killing Glenn. And of course, we saw some foreshadowing. Abe didn't die right there. He died right after that when Dwight had the crossbow and put it inside Abe's face, put it in the back of his head, coming right out of his eye. But we saw that death get foreshadowed with whatever that girl's name was, I believe Denise, the doctor.
Oh, the doctor, yeah.
Yeah, the psychiatric or whatever she was called, but she did a good job as a medic. But, there's a lot of foreshadowing. So, and on top of that, they talked about it on that episode of The Talking Dead where this stuff was planned out a year in advance, who's going to die and when they're going to die. So there's no prediction of who you're going to see go. So now the show is completely unpredictable.
Yeah, there's only X amount of people who are left from the original, and it's just snowballing now, just into the seventh season, and off and running. So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap that up right here, and crazy episode. Can't wait till next week. About an hour and a half episode, and lots to cover, and we'll be back here live next week. It'll be a little later than now, but whatever, because it'll be a slightly longer episode. But it is what it is. We love it, and that's why I decided to do this again, because it's hot stuff, and then we love it. So why not? So that's it. Thank you, Styles, for joining me again. We'll see you
Always
guys.
a pleasure, man.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week. Same channel, same time. Later.
Till then, ta-ta.